Hi guys, it's Josh from Education 2020 with you today. Now a couple of years ago we lived in Thailand, and when we were there were some friends of ours that were in Australia. They were homeschooling their kids and they wanted a little bit of guidance. So I put together a couple of videos. Today's one is on how to set up English for kindergarten, year 1 or year 2 in the most simple way. When we travelled to Thailand we had 2 children doing school, and we only had one backpack to fit all of their educational things in. So this video is really good if you're traveling on the road, touring around Australia or America or Europe, wherever it is. Compact education that gets really good results. Our kids came out at the top of the class and they came back to Australia, so it was really effective, really simple, basic. Anybody could pick it up and run with it. If you look in the description today, you can see a table of contents where you can scroll through to the right time so you can see where the topics are at. It's there for your convenience. Comment below. Have you ever thought about homeschool? Are you a homeschooler? I'd be interested in finding out. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on the next cool set of videos coming out. Here it is. I hope you enjoy. Does the when, the what and the how of teaching English hold you back from homeschooling? In this video, I'll show you how I break up and structure English in a way that gives me the flexibility to teach it fuss-free and transform our kids into being effective, amazing communicators. Did you know that many years ago, one English subject was actually illegal to teach in England? At the end of this video, I'll show you which one it is and why it's so important to teach to your kids these days. English is divided into 4 subject areas: spelling, reading, writing, and speaking. Now, writing can be broken up into handwriting, grammar, and actual writing. Reading can be broken up into fluency and comprehension. Comprehension means just the ability to understand what it is that you read and make sense of it. And spelling is just spelling. How can you give your children the best start as learners in English? What I always recommended to my parents in my 11 years of teaching, and what I did with my own kids, was this. From as early in their life as possible, read to them 1 or 2 short stories for their pleasure. You may need to focus them a little, especially when they're young, but make sure that you're reading to them for their own enjoyment. The second thing is this: teach them phonemes. Now, a phoneme is the shortest sound that you can make. Do this before you teach them the alphabet. For example, when we spell, we need to sound words out. It isn't natural for us to spell them out with the letter name. Let's take the word sound, for example. We could go s, ow, d. We wouldn't really spell it out naturally like S-O-U-N-D. That way's old, that way's done. Because the names of the letters aren't the actual sounds that they make when we speak them. Your kids will be reading super quick and their spelling shouldn't be too far behind either. I know our son in kindy is spelling really, really quickly, and that's because we've always sounded out words with him. Now, with that in mind, how do we set up English for our kids? Let me show you subject by subject and what we do to meet the needs in those subject areas. Let's touch on reading first. For my son, who's in kindergarten, we're focusing on developing his sight words, and we're just using a program that somebody gave me from my school. You could probably find other programs that are just as good as the one that I've used. I think the one that I'm using does need improvement. It can't be just something that can be picked up and taught. There may be some teacher knowledge required behind it, but it's as simple as copying off the sheet, cutting up the words and having a go. What are sight words? Sight words are the most commonly used words in the English language. And when a child's reading, if he could put those words into his own memory, then he doesn't need to sound those words out, and it gives him or her a great start to read fluently as quickly as possible. And when they start reading fluently, they feel such an amazing sense of accomplishment. So we've been going through 10 words, not 10 words a week, but 10 words at his own pace. He moves on when he has mastered those set of 10 words. Next up are readers or books. I call these leveled readers because each book is aimed at a different stage of development in reading. This may be a financial outlay for you, but let me really tell you, it's super important if you want your kids to read quickly and with confidence. I make sure that one child is set up with a self-guided activity so that I can spend the other time with my other child one-on-one, so we can have some really quality learning time together without any interruption. Before we read, we discuss the title and the picture on the front cover, and I'll let him or her talk about any little side tangents they may know. The title may be How We Milked the Goat, and he might want to talk about his uncle's farm and all the things that we've done on that farm, and that really helps him prepare his brain to engage with the material. And when we're reading, I'll get him to practice some of the skills that he should be using. Skills like sounding out words, reading the word all the way through to the end so he doesn't miss the ed, the s, or the ing, and using the logic to guess what the next word may be, which is a really important skill if you want to be a quick reader. I'll also get them to reread a passage if they haven't read it fluently. This will allow them to feel a bit more confident before moving on, and fill in any gaps of misunderstanding. And this is particularly for our child who's in year 2, where kids move from the learning to read into the reading for learning phase. It's really important that they engage with the content and that they don't misunderstand any words, because that could really have a play on how their brain is developing their understanding of what they're reading. How do you know if a book is at a good level for your child? You've got whole kits for this, really expensive stuff, and it's really, really good if you have the bucks for it. But here's a way that you can do it at home with any old reader. First, go with your gut. If your kid can read it pretty well, then that's probably right for him. But if you wanted to be more precise on what they can or can't read, then photocopy a page off of a book that you think is pretty good, count out 100 words. Now, if they're making less than 5 mistakes on that book, then that book's too easy for them. If they're making more than 10 mistakes in those 100 words, then that book is too hard for them. They need to be in that Goldilocks zone, which is an accuracy in between 90 and 95%. And finally, I have them use a website called Reading Eggs. Now, when I was a teacher, I didn't actually use this in the classroom, but I know our reading recovery teacher did. And I now think that all types of learners should be on this website. It's really improved our kids' reading. It's almost like I've got another teacher in the room with me teaching my kids. It gives them content that's at their level and moves them on as they progress as readers. Awesome. On to spelling, I'm using a program that I taught in school called Sound Waves, and each week a new sound is focused on so they can put it to their memory. And every week comes printable games, online activities, everything that they need to improve themselves as spellers and put that sound to their memory. It costs about $100 per child. Now, don't worry about mastery of lists or whatever like that. What I'm more focusing on here is that the kids understand the mechanics of how the sounds fit together to make the words, and that they can memorize what letters go together to make the sound in that word. For handwriting, I'm using the accompanying handwriting text that goes with Sound Waves. It's good because it teaches the kids the best practice for letter stroke formation, which hedges against RSI later on in life. I've also been onto them about pencil grip, which, if you're not too sure about pencil grip, it goes like this. The pencil needs to sit in the V between your thumb and your index finger, and it needs to rest on your middle finger. The two other fingers, the forefinger and the index and the thumb, pinch the pencil like so. I'm not really worried about the neatness of their handwriting, but the overall presentation of their work, because in the end it's good presentation that gets results. You think about it, you come to work dressed like a slob, you're not going to get paid very high. You come to work dressed really well, presenting yourself nicely, and your work, it's going to get you the things that you want. Now, writing. Everyone has an opinion on teaching writing. At the end of the day, the outcome of studying English boils down to this one thing. Can you successfully deliver your thoughts through written and verbal communication? So here comes the crown jewel, writing and speaking. For writing, we study the different purposes of writing, 1 or 2 reasons per term. And while we're studying them, we look for them wherever we go. And we see, look, how was that communicated? Could you have done that better? Do you think pictures and words would have been better, or just words? We look at both written and visual, movies, letters, ads, spoken programs, you name it, we look at it. I also have my kids keep a weekly diary, And this is where I focus on sentence construction, what makes it a sentence and how we can improve it, make it more interesting to read. We also have a dictation each week where the kids write out the words that I speak, and together we go over the dictation to see if they got all of the grammar and punctuation as well as the spelling. In the dictation we include the weekly spelling words from our spelling list. Grammar. We simply work through the grammar textbook that we're working with at the moment. I look for their knowledge in their written work rather than their knowledge of what a noun or a verb or a superlative adjective is. Think about this. When have you ever had to circle the superlative adjective in the sentence outside of school? Most people who can do this are probably teachers or weirdos, but there are some really important aspects to grammar that we need to know, and a textbook covers most of this so we can write effectively. Good to remember that writing is the end goal, not circling superlative adjectives. For our son in kindergarten, I have made a set of flashcards that contain words, and we play around with these words making different sentences. It's a whole lot of fun, switching some words in and out for others, and some sentences are really funny. It's a really good time to connect as well as build your knowledge of sentence construction. Now for public speaking. It's been kind of tough for us to create a regular public speaking program. In the classroom, we're forced to do this each week and we must keep to it. But here in the homeschool, I find it's a little bit more relaxed, and there is a caution when you become too relaxed with what you're teaching. So what I want to improve on is I want to create a different purpose, 2 purposes per term, similar to what we're doing for the writing. And I would like our kids to prepare a speech or a talk, and they can speak in front of the family and try and maybe start off with just give a simple recount of what's happened over the weekend, leading through different sorts of purposes for speaking, and I think culminating in what's the most important one, and that is persuasion. They could create an advertisement trying to persuade somebody to buy an item from them. Some extra things that we do that you may not have thought of or not seen as important is we read to our kids every night. We've been reading The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. It's really good to study the classic authors. A long time ago, a part of the writing curriculum was to write out the works of one of your favourite authors, and by writing out and copying his works, you would become yourself quite a great writer. Don't worry, I'm not making our kids write out the Narnia Chronicles, but by listening to them, we'll increase their vocabulary and give them that creative imagination that C.S. Lewis has. We've also been studying Thai since we live in Thailand, and by studying this language and culture, it gives us a snapshot into the brain of another person and how they think. It'll give our kids empathy and perspective, giving them a wider view of the world, which will make us all better people. We're also getting our kids to create presentations using computers, which I believe is going to become an ever-increasing need in the workforce in the future. Okay, which subject was once illegal to be taught in schools? Well, actually it was 2 subjects. It was writing and speaking. Before World War II, English was broken into 2 sections, active literacy and passive literacy. Passive literacy was reading and understanding. Active literacy was writing and speaking. Why was this illegal? Well, if you think about it, if the commoner was able to speak and write with power, then they were able to spread their thoughts. And if your nation was trying to make progress with a war effort, and the common man thought, hey, this isn't any good, I'm going to say something about this, and started speaking and writing, well, he could rally the people against their leaders, which is why the government made speaking, writing an illegal subject to be taught. But if they could read, then they could receive the commands and instructions from their leaders and do as they've been asked. And that is why writing and speaking is so important and such a necessary skill for your child to have. If they've got something to say, an important topic for the world to hear, it's important they can communicate it with strength and power. Okay, thanks for tuning in, guys. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. Please stay tuned. I'm going to be talking about what we have been doing for maths. Hopefully you've learned something from today's talk. I'll catch you next time.